Bitcoin before bed, my friend. Let the day gently end. Stories of crypto, soft and true. The blockchain waits for you.
Tonight, let's talk about something simple. Not price predictions. Not market analysis. Not investment advice. Let's talk about what Bitcoin actually is. Not what people say it might become. Not what headlines claim it represents. Just what it is, right now. Fundamentally. Because beneath all the noise, all the speculation, all the emotion, Bitcoin is something very specific. System. Protocol. A set of rules that anyone can verify. And understanding those rules might help you sleep better than any price chart ever could. Part 1. What Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency and payment network. It launched in 2009. It allows people to send value directly to one another over the internet, without relying on banks, payment processors, or governments to approve, hold, or settle those transactions. There is no central owner of Bitcoin. No company issues it. No authority controls who can use it or how much exists. Instead, Bitcoin operates through open-source software and a global network of independent computers called nodes, which collectively enforce the rules of the system. Anyone can download the software. Anyone can run a node. Anyone can independently verify the entire history of Bitcoin from the very first block in 2009. This makes Bitcoin permissionless. Participation does not require a license. No account approval. No minimum balance. No permission at all. If you have an internet connection and the software, you can use Bitcoin. That's it. Part 2. Fixed rules and limited supply. At the core of Bitcoin is a set of fixed rules. The most important rule: Bitcoin's maximum supply is capped at 21 million coins. This is encoded into the protocol. Changing that limit would require a level of global coordination among users and node operators that is intentionally extremely difficult to achieve. Unlike fiat currencies, Bitcoin's money supply cannot be expanded at will in response to political pressure or short-term economic conditions. New Bitcoins are introduced through a process called mining. Miners use specialized hardware to perform proof of work, securing the network and ordering transactions into blocks. As compensation, they receive newly issued Bitcoin plus transaction fees. This issuance is not constant. Roughly every 4 years, in an event known as the halving, the block reward paid to miners is cut in half. Over time, this schedule reduces the flow of new coins, making Bitcoin's issuance predictable and steadily declining. Eventually, the block subsidy will drop effectively to zero, and miners will be paid only through transaction fees. Because the schedule is public and algorithmic, anyone can calculate how many Bitcoins exist today and how many will exist at any future date. There is no guessing, no mystery, just math. Part 3. The blockchain. Bitcoin transactions are recorded on a public blockchain, a distributed ledger replicated across thousands of nodes around the world. Every block of transactions references the one before it, forming a chain that starts with the first block in 2009. Once a transaction is confirmed in a block and buried under additional blocks, it becomes extremely difficult to reverse. Each new block of proof of work adds computational weight to the history, making deep changes increasingly costly and impractical. Security in Bitcoin comes from proof of work and economic incentives. Instead of trusting institutions to be honest, the system makes it more profitable to follow the rules than to break them. To change past transactions, an attacker would need to control enormous amounts of computing power and electricity, outspend honest miners, and sustain that effort long enough to reorganize the chain, an undertaking designed to be economically irrational at scale. This structure makes Bitcoin resistant to censorship. There is no central authority that can unilaterally block a valid transaction. As long as at least some miners and nodes follow the rules, valid transactions can be included and finalized. Part 4. Trust, Identity and Privacy. Bitcoin is often described as trustless. But that doesn't mean there is no trust at all. It means trust is minimized and relocated. Users trust open rules, open source code, verifiable mathematics, rather than the promises or discretion of specific people, companies, or governments. Bitcoin is not anonymous. It is pseudonymous. Addresses are not directly tied to real-world names on the blockchain, but all transactions are public and permanent. Over time, transaction patterns can be analyzed and often linked to real identities through exchanges, payment processors, or mistakes in how users manage their addresses. Additional tools and practices, such as generating new addresses, using privacy techniques, or using certain second-layer solutions, can improve privacy, but perfect anonymity is not what Bitcoin provides by default. It's transparent by design. Every transaction, every block, public, verifiable, forever. Part 5. What Bitcoin is not. It's important to understand what Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is not fast compared to modern consumer payment apps. On average, a new block is added roughly every 10 minutes, and the base layer has limited capacity. This slower, predictable pace is intentional. Bitcoin prioritizes security, global auditability, and resistance to censorship over raw throughput. As a result, many day-to-day payments and higher-speed transactions are increasingly handled on additional layers built on top of Bitcoin, such as the Lightning Network or other payment channels. The base layer focuses on final settlement, while higher layers aim for speed and better user experience. Bitcoin is also not a smart contract platform in the same way some other blockchains are. It supports scripting and programmable conditions, but its design prioritizes simplicity and conservatism to reduce attack surface and keep verification manageable for ordinary nodes. Bitcoin does one thing. Does it well. Does it securely. But it does not try to do everything. Part 6. Risk and uncertainty. Bitcoin is not guaranteed to succeed. It is an open, ongoing experiment in digital monetary design. Its long-term value depends on continued usage, confidence in its rules, and its ability to remain secure and decentralized in the face of technological, regulatory, and economic change. Bitcoin's price has gone through multiple boom and bust cycles, with dramatic gains and deep crashes. This volatility reflects a combination of speculative activity, changing narratives, macroeconomic conditions, and the fact that the asset is still relatively young compared to traditional money systems. Users also face practical risks: software bugs, hardware failures, phishing attacks, exchange collapses, simple mistakes like losing a backup or sending funds to the wrong address. Unlike a bank account, there is no customer support line that can reverse a confirmed Bitcoin transaction. Once it's sent, it's sent. Once it's lost, it's lost. This is the cost of removing intermediaries. You gain sovereignty, but you also gain responsibility. Part 7. Bitcoin's evolution. Over the years, Bitcoin has evolved from a niche technology experiment to a global asset and settlement network. It is now held by individuals, companies, investment funds, and some public entities. Financial products such as futures, options, and exchange-traded funds have created new ways to gain exposure without holding coins directly, though they also reintroduce intermediaries and custodians. Many long-term holders treat Bitcoin primarily as a scarce digital asset or store of value, rather than as a daily payment tool. Others focus on its role as censorship-resistant money in regions with high inflation, capital controls, or unstable banking infrastructure. At the same time, debates continue within the broader community about energy usage and environmental impact, the degree of decentralization of mining, regulation and surveillance, and Bitcoin's social and economic implications. Despite this growth, Bitcoin remains volatile, controversial, and widely misunderstood. Part 8. What Bitcoin is today. At its core, Bitcoin is best understood not as a stock, not as a company, and not as a promise of returns, but as a monetary network with fixed, transparent rules. It removes discretionary control over its supply in favor of predictability. It replaces trust in centralized institutions with transparency, verification, and open participation. Whether Bitcoin ultimately becomes widely used everyday money, a long-term store of value, a niche settlement layer, or something else entirely remains an open question. What Bitcoin is today is clear. A decentralized system for transferring and storing value, governed by code, scarcity, and consensus, rather than by any single authority. So, what is Bitcoin? It's not magic. It's not a guarantee. It's not a religion. It's a protocol, a network, a set of rules that anyone can verify and no one can change without overwhelming consensus. It's transparent where traditional finance is opaque. It's predictable where central banks are discretionary. It's permissionless where institutions are gatekeepers. But it's also slow, volatile, unforgiving of mistakes, and still very much an experiment. The question isn't whether Bitcoin is perfect. It's not. The question is whether its trade-offs, transparency over privacy, security over speed, sovereignty over safety nets, are worth it. Only you can answer that. But now, at least you know what the question is. Sleep well. The blockchain will still be running tomorrow. Takeaways. What Bitcoin is. A decentralized digital currency and payment network. Governed by open-source software and consensus rules. Permissionless. Anyone can participate without approval. Limited to 21 million coins, supply controlled by code. How it works. Transactions recorded on a public blockchain. Secured by proof-of-work mining. New blocks added roughly every 10 minutes. Resistant to censorship and difficult to alter. What it's not. Not anonymous, pseudonymous. All transactions public. Not fast. Prioritizes security over speed. Not guaranteed to succeed. Ongoing experiment. Not forgiving of mistakes. No customer support to reverse transactions. The reality. Bitcoin is transparent where traditional finance is opaque. It's predictable where central banks are discretionary. It's permissionless, where institutions are gatekeepers. But it's also slow, volatile, and demanding of personal responsibility. This isn't investment advice. This is just what Bitcoin is. Draw your own conclusions. The network will be here tomorrow. So will these facts. Rest easy.
When the